Hi, I'm Misha Bajaj, a partner at Iridium Coaching and Learning. I've worked for 25 years in various roles in diplomatic missions, as well as running my own marketing and communications business. I'm an ICF PCC, a Marshall Goldsmith Stakeholder Centered Coach, a ProSci certified change management practitioner, and I'm also an international NLP trainer.
Hi, and my name is Nikhil Damle. I have worked for 25 years in various roles in global banking, operations, and finance. I'm a founder and partner at Iridium Coaching and Learning. I'm a business coach and an international NLP trainer on the path of becoming a NLP master trainer.
And the Iridium Conversations is brought to you as an exploration of how neuro-linguistic programming can bring excellence in diverse fields that matter both in the personal and professional realm.
So our aim is to enable our audience to deepen their competence and amplify their impact and effectiveness, leveraging different ideas from NLP that we will bring into these conversations.
So join us in this exciting series of conversations where we geek out on NLP and its relevance in domains that haven't been explored before. Hello and welcome back to the Iridium Conversations. I'm your host Misha and I'm wearing my coach hat. I should actually wear that coach hat. And with me once again is Nikhil wearing his NLP trainer.
I'm holding my NLP cup.
Yes.
I'm drinking from the NLP cup.
And so whatever comes out of your mouth is going to be about how do we use NLP as a lens that can help us deepen our competence and amplify our impact as coaches. In the last episode, we spoke about holding space. We looked at it from different angles. We looked at what it actually means, how silence works, how do we deal with a client that rambles on and still maintain direction, and how do we deal with a client even when they resist that space. And today we are going one layer inward as we promised the last time. Today's topic is managing one's state, which is really about what is happening in the inner world of the coach. And that is happening while the conversation is happening. And how can NLP help us work with that within that moment by moment, right? So Nikhil, welcome back once again.
Thanks. And I'm liking how sometimes when we end the earlier conversation, it kind of, leads us to, oh, maybe this is something more we should talk about. And that then becomes an entire episode afterwards.
Absolutely.
So it's really nice having these conversations.
Yep, same here. It's fun having to explore it in this way because it's a conversation and it doesn't almost put a pressure as to this has to go this way or this has to go that way.
In Bengal, there are these addas, so it's like an adda.
Yeah, it is literally our adda, the Iridium Conversations. So let's begin today's adda proceedings. So I want to start this, Nikhil, today by linking this to the language we know from ICF. And one of the competencies that we have to follow as an accredited coach is the coach embodies a coaching mindset, which really focuses on how a coach engages in an ongoing personal and professional development for themselves, right? And a lot of that happens outside of the coaching conversation. It's almost like what's happening between the spaces that we are holding for people.
Correct.
But what I'm really curious about for this particular conversation is that what is happening inside the conversation? What is happening inside the coach in the conversation, right?
Got it.
So how does a coach handle their inner world in the middle of a session, in the midst of a session? And is there a way that NLP can help or assist a coach to work on that space?
I think it's an interesting question because, two of my favorite words are in this, embody and mindset. In our courses at Iridium, we are sort of teaching NLP in a way that people embody the skills, right? And embody these mindsets. So, if we think about this word mindset, and if you imagine a situation where you're driving on a highway with family and somebody's singing, somebody's munching on snacks, and person next to you is not guiding you the way they should be guiding you or the help that you're expecting. Yet the person in the driver's seat is in a driving mindset, we can say. Because they will ignore all these, oh, look at that tree, look at that hoarding, and they'll ignore all of that because they're focused on how well I drive is what is important right now. And whether it is about reaching on time, whether it's the safety, all of that. So when we're speaking about this mindset, it brings the focus back to performance. And that means when we speak about embodying a coaching mindset, then how is a coach focused on what it takes to perform well, right? So if we think about, where is the origin of NLP coming from? NLP really originated out of the curiosity, out of the quest of figuring out that how come some people are excellent at what they do, whereas in the same thing other people are average at what they do. And so in NLP there are these 6 pillars, which we say are sort of foundational to anything that happens in NLP, any process that happens in NLP. And when we use these as simple guardrails, then they're as applicable whether you're a surgeon or whether you want to be an excellent father or a mother, or whether you want to be a a leader that is very effective, or you're an astronaut, or you're a coach. Now these 6 pillars are often easy mnemonic to remember them is KUHBOT. So a lot of our participants will say KUBOT as if it's some robot. So K is really knowing your outcome, which if you think about it, it links with setting contract, figuring out what is the outcome of the client, right? The next one is use sensory acuity, ACUITY, which means, previously we've spoken about non-verbal cues. What do silences mean? How do you pick up on this? Is something that can be, in a way, it's like a language that is also being employed along with words. So how do you attune yourself to picking up that language which is not words? That's sensory acuity. And then having behavioral flexibility. So can I be flexible in the manner in which I am conducting the conversation so that I can facilitate inquiry and discovery for the client? If you look at any other person who's excellent in their profession, the hallmark of their excellence is how flexible they are. So if you think about great tennis players, irrespective of the era, surfaces they played on, quality of opponents, number of matches they played, weather conditions, they're flexible in how they perform because they're aware of, to perform well, if it means I need to do something different, I'll do that. I'll not stick to a template of it, right? So that's behavioral flexibility. Building and maintaining rapport, which means maintaining resonance in the conversation. Again, that's an important thing because it's like the oxygen in the room. If there is no, if there is no rapport and resonance, forget about holding the space. Then it's like the space got contaminated or polluted by something else, right? And then also another thing which is is operate from a physiology and psychology of excellence. Now, physiology and psychology, so one is skills, one is the way we ask questions, but the other is the mindset. So often you'll see sports people train for the physical skills, but then they're also sitting at the pitch, imagining, closing their eyes. They're really sort of doing like a mental rehearsal. And so, when we put all of these things together, the last thing that comes into the picture is take action. All of this is of no use unless we are in action. So if we think about excellence, all of these are common to any area of excellence. Music conductor, Olympic athlete, a fantastic teacher. So we remember teachers who are really able to figure out ways of making us learn that subject nicely. We don't remember those teachers who said you must learn only this way. So that's a flexible teacher, that's an excellent teacher. So therefore, mindset really means training ourselves on the physical elements of the craft. In this case, the craft being coaching, but also training ourselves on the invisible, that is the mindset of what it takes to be a coach. In this movie F1, they've shown where, the drivers are not on the track, but they're just in their area where they rest. sitting in a chair, closing their eyes, imagining that they're holding the steering wheel, and just making the movements as if they are in the car, changing gears, pressing brakes. And you can say that's a mental rehearsal. In NLP we say that is anchoring, which means getting yourself physically and mentally to re-experience it as if it's going to happen at that time when you go and perform, right? So somebody who's really good at what they do, you will most likely see them doing these mental rehearsals, which means even though physically I have not done that many, the iterations make me start feeling comfortable about going and performing there. So that way it might be the first time that I've arrived at that place, but I'm already in an excellent mindset that allows me to perform really well over there.
Got it. You talked about rehearsing, mental rehearsing. You talked about how F1 drivers are already mentally, sitting on the steering wheel and imagining the circuit on all of that. And like cricketers who would be sitting at the pitch and imagining how the game would be.
Yes.
What if the client throws a googly and, something that they say is triggering for you as a coach?
Yes.
In that scenario, how do you manage your inner state? Does NLP have anything to support that?
Yes. I think so. That's why the first part is important. Because you can never assume you'll be ready for everything. So the mental and physical rehearsal or anchoring is useful because for the most part, whatever can come up, you're at least, sort of prepared, ready for it. When you're prepared and ready like that, then you're not thinking actually. You'll see excellent musicians. There is no delay between thinking and execution. So the more of this that you've done, then it's embodied, then it's in your muscle memory. Now you're okay and you're ready to deal with a googly or a surprise that comes, right? So first thing is to not again be sort of, looking at it as, oh my God, I don't know how to deal with this googly. So, John Grinder, who's the co-creator of NLP, he uses this phrase called change agent, right? And change agent means a person who's an agent of change, a little bit Avengers style, right? But anyone who's involved in working with people. So he calls it anyone who's in a helping profession. So could be a counselor, a therapist, could be a nurse who's in a trauma department, could be a physiotherapist, any of these people that are in a helping profession. The main thing is to keep our world out. But here's the important thing. When we say keep your world out, people think of it as I must suppress whatever I'm facing. So if what the other person is saying is triggering me, then not to worry about, oh my God, now I don't want this to come up in this conversation, but why is it? Now that can set me as a coach in the space of panic. So it can shift me from being in a functional coaching mindset to a panic mindset. And remember what we said earlier episode about holding space. It will then affect the space that I'm holding for the client. But at the same time, these things will come up, right? We are human beings. I mean, there will be some reference that will be mentioned, and either we might say, oh my God, that is exactly like what I have gone through, or it might be, I know about this, or it could be very disturbing for me. Now, think of it as if it's generating that kind of a reaction within you, it's a data point, right? We had said that emotions are a data point, and therefore when we think about it, noticing these, when we are trying to type an important message on the phone, notifications come up, we just swipe it away. Because at that time, paying attention to typing the message and sending it is important. So if we treat these things that come up, it is coming up in me, let me momentarily park that aside and continue to pay attention to what is going on. You could do that as one thing. The other way you could do that is you could say that, okay, if I don't want to suspend it, it is coming up, it is definitely pointing out to something, then check in for yourself that what is it pointing it out towards. Is it a doubt in what the client is saying? Is it a question that you feel you must ask? Then feel okay to sort of, bring that up in the conversation. Not like, I'm not getting a good feeling about what you're saying, so you must be lying. Not like that. But saying, okay, I heard what you're saying, so what about that? In a clarifying manner, maintaining the curiosity and wonder. And so then it's not really about worrying about, I must suppress these, I don't want anything to trigger, I don't want something to come up which I have not been. There's another thing people as coaches feel, that if you bring up something that I have not managed to conquer, then how will I help you conquer it? Is again bringing my world in, that I may not have figured out, that's okay, but today I'm in the capacity of helping you figure out. And so giving ourselves that kind of a leeway, rather than trying to make it like, a sneeze that we are trying to resist, that it should not happen in the conversation right now. If you sneeze, then, you just say, excuse me, and kind of, carry on. So to think of these interruptions as just interruptions, right? But also to trust our skills a little bit more, that I am capable of continuing to engage in this conversation. In a way, this is no different than a doorbell that rings, no different than somebody suddenly entering the room and saying, oh, I didn't know your conversation was going on over here. And you don't get totally dislodged because that happens. So we are built in such a way that we are capable of handling interruptions. So if we treat this, something that is triggering us as an interruption, and we say, let's just keep it to the side. Now, you're right that how do we develop the ability to, during the conversation, do this? It'll just come with practice. But it's being okay with ourselves as we are learning as coaches, that there will be times where these things happen. It's okay to acknowledge at that time, and then just kind of, once you acknowledge, you're no longer fighting it, to then carry on with the rest of the conversation.
Got it. You did mention about Kubot, and you did mention that maintaining a physiology and psychology of excellence.
Yes.
And I think that has some role to play in this particular topic, this particular instance that we were discussing right now. As sometimes it is about what we just discussed, and sometimes it's almost like not going a step further with that trigger and literally wanting to just shake the table, you're so triggered that why can't you just get it, let's just get on with the conversation.
Right.
So while you are supposed to be maintaining a physiology and psychology of excellence, if you're trained as an NLP coach,
yes,
in reality, what do you think is happening, and how can this be addressed?
See, I think if you are a coach, you really at some level are thinking that probably I'm good at helping people. Nobody is getting into the work of coaching or getting trained as a coach because they really had nothing else to do, because it can be it can be taxing if somebody is bringing up really the most difficult of things and you're not there for the right reasons. Then you're going to struggle. So first thing is that a coach is really there to help the client move forward. And whether it's a problem or an issue or a difficulty or a challenge that the client is facing, they are facing it in their world. So I can't enter their world, bring my solutions and say that try my solutions, they will work for you. That's a bit alien and it doesn't stick for a long time. And it totally goes against anyway all the competencies that ICF has put out, right? So change is only going to be as effective as much as the client discovers it on their own, whatever the solutions or answers there are, right? And therefore the roles are very clear. I'm there to enable that space. I'm there to enable that inquiry, discovery, awareness to happen by the client who's noticing problems, challenges, difficulties in their world. And so it's a good idea if they discover the answers, solutions, and the way forward also in their own world. Because then there's a higher likelihood that they will go ahead with it and act on it because it is their own. They generated it on their own, right? So yeah, you may feel like I want to shake the table. Now, again, think of it, right? It really means that you care so much that you're feeling like, come on, this is so obvious. You should get it. Yes, all of that can happen. And if you feel like utilizing that, then being NLP trained helps, because then you can calibrate what is really going on. Right? And you might then be able to calibrate that verbally the client is saying something else and non-verbally I'm getting a completely different response.
Got it.
In NLP, we call it incongruence. Or if the response verbally and non-verbally is consistent, then we call it congruence, right?
Congruent.
Or you might, in simple words, say there's dissonance in,
Hmm.
like walking the talk and talking the talk, there is
Yeah.
a difference, right?
Gap. Yeah.
So being NLP trained allows you to notice these finer calibration points.
Hmm.
And when you notice these finer calibration points, then you can probe into that rather than feeling upset that, come on, how come you're not getting this?
Yeah.
So NLP actually equips you for these kind of situations, because then you can bring the focus back to what is important for the client, or what do you notice is the state of the client right now, or what's the implication for them of what they've said right now. So you can always think of what's a different question you can ask that can again sort of make them a little bit more aware of what they're saying.
Hmm.
Also here it's then going to train you in terms of trusting your instincts to pick up the client's patterns.
Hmm.
So if you see the topic as a trigger for something and it is so obvious to you that you have to now shake the table and say,
Agree.
then you're getting entangled as much as the client is entangled in the difficulty.
Hmm.
That I faced this difficulty, it was so hard, I don't want you to face this difficulty. How can you not see that there is such a good solution for it, right? But a trained coach would say, I'm noticing these patterns.
Hmm.
And it's more helpful for the client if they notice these patterns. Because if I give an answer and shake the table, it'll solve the problem for now, but it will not make them aware of their patterns. And if they're not aware of their patterns, they can't change their ways.
Hmm.
So you could utilize this to again use it as a moment to create more self-reflection for them. And
Hmm.
the other important thing is, when I mentioned earlier that we are agents of change for the client, and therefore change in their world, and therefore change at a pace that they feel comfortable with,
Yeah.
right? So we can't sort of let our sense of urgency or our sense of importance creep into the conversation, because client is going to be able to do it in their own space, in their own time. So using these as data, right? Whatever you are feeling inside that I must shake the table now, using this as data. We had said in one of the episodes, emotions is data. So
Hmm.
using your own emotions as markers that this is highlighting something in the conversation. Perhaps it's a direction which I am not clear about,
Hmm.
might be good for the client or not, but then bring that up through the form of an inquiry, bring that up through the form of a fork in the road, which the client has the agency to choose.
Hmm.
And if that happens, then whatever way they choose is the way they'd like to go down. We can't dictate that, don't go down that line of thought, go down this line of thought. We can't dictate that for them.
Hmm. I like I like how you said, it is available to us to see whether the responses are congruent or incongruent,
Correct.
in the client. And that's really about the concept of calibration as we use
Correct.
in NLP, right?
Correct.
Now, I want to move us to a little bit of a different conversation within
Okay.
this managing the internal state of the coach. And this piece is really something that shows up in the early journey of a coach, as when they just start coaching, and this
Right.
kind of shows up where every conversation, it seems to be like a verdict on your capability as a coach.
Right.
It's like,
Right.
yes, I know that not being attached to the client's outcome is a competency, or is something that I as an ICF coach have to practice.
Yeah.
And yet it shows up. It's almost like an inner pressure. It's a need for the
We are
session
checking whether
to.
we should give ourselves A grade or B grade or C
Correct,
grade.
right? You're constantly evaluating yourself during the
Yes.
conversation that,
Yes.
is the session landing perfectly,
Yeah.
And I think that can really land the coach off track,
Correct.
in the conversation. So,
Yeah.
so if we were to look at this from the NLP lens,
Yeah.
how is this pressure arising and how do we deal with it so that it's not constantly, like you use notification. It's not constantly giving us a notification running in the background during a
Hmm.
conversation.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
how do we do that?
I think it's partially sort of, when we think of those 6 pillars, the first one we
Hmm.
said is the outcome.
Hmm.
And it's therefore then getting very clear about what the client's outcome is.
Hmm.
Because Think of it like this. Even in let's say a student is weak in maths, and the parents decide that something must be done about this, so let's get a teacher, a private tutor of maths. And if you ask the parents what is the outcome, parents might say, well, the kid should get 90% or 95% in maths. And if they ask the kid might say, well, if I get anything over 80 also, that is fine. So it's interesting, right? Now, whose outcome is really the outcome that the tutor should go for?
Yeah.
So therefore, even in the process of ICF coaching, that contracting that happens at the beginning, and like you said a few moments ago, that it can't be that we stay hung up on the first thing that the client utters.
Correct.
It's also the coach's responsibility to get clear that the client is clear about what the outcome is. So if it takes a little bit of a while, a little bit of probing to really understand, okay, got it, this is what we're looking at. Okay, and is that what you want to look at in this conversation? That's getting clear on the outcome. That's getting clear on the contract. So therefore, then it is the client's outcome. So now, how do I assess whether I'm good as a coach or not? Right? I assess whether I'm good as a coach or not based on whether I ran the process, whether I held that space, whether I facilitated that conversation in a way that the client's outcome was met, or we went in the direction of the client's outcome being met. So that means, if we have to use a different idea, if a bread is put in an oven, can the oven think, I hope the customer who eats the bread likes it? If you were to say that oven has a personality, then oven's job is to make sure there is a right level of heat. It's not the oven's job to think about, is the dough mixed the correct way or not. So as a coach, we are ensuring that the right facilitation, the right holding of space, the right level of inquiry is being invoked in the conversation. And through that is the client finding answers to the outcome that they had said they want to achieve, when we began the conversation. So if we're able to do that facilitation of discovery, then that's really our job as a coach. So for me, it's also sometimes, a little bit odd that, and this happens on LinkedIn, where people will say, oh, this is the person that I coached, and look, this is what they've done. Let's look at the coach's role as a support staff. So that leader doing well, or that person getting a promotion, is their victory, it's their outcome. Your victory happened when the conversation got over, when they got the answer to, oh, so this is the way I should change my way of working. But it's a silent victory, it's a quiet victory. Enjoy it there. Right? So if we learn, there is this unspoken competency, I think it should be added somewhere, called patience. Because you mentioned very rightly that in the early stages, this can be a source of anxiousness, that am I performing well or not? And what is it that you're very good at, which happened with the snap of a finger? Nothing. So if we think about it as, if we are patient about how we are able to sort of continue to build ourselves into being a good coach, in terms of being able to hold space for the clients, in terms of being able to listen really well so that we can ask sharp questions, then gradually we'll see that with enough number of conversations, our skills will develop. But that can't be measured by a clock. That, now it's 30 minutes, so by now we should have been already covering this much distance in a 1 hour conversation. Or I'm heading towards my ACC credential, by now I should be X kind of a coach, and I should have halo or whatever around my head. So I think this performance chatter that is really there is just chatter. It's something that is running in the background. It doesn't help if that's happening, because then I'm engaged in my conversation as a coach. Am I doing well? Is this going well? Not focused on the client. So a good way to let go of this is to really think of it as, can I be a nice observer of this conversation? Can I notice what is going on in this conversation? And by being that, I'm getting a glimpse of what the client is going through. And when I'm getting a glimpse of that through the questions that I'm asking, I'm checking whatever is being revealed, is that going in the direction of satisfying the client's outcome? So I'm like an observer, like an overseer. And whenever I'm seeing that I'm not able to make the link between what the client has said and their outcome, I'm asking that question so that we can figure out how does this go in that direction.
Hmm.
In this, if I'm going through all this chatter, then no holding space can happen, no managing my own
Hmm.
state can happen, right? uh, and it's exactly like this in any other performance discipline. So there is a chef called Martin Yan. There used to be a show called Yan Can Cook, and he would joke he was very good at knife skills. So he said that if you want to be good at knife skills, you're only allowed two mistakes, because third mistake means you'll be only left with these fingers. So
Yeah.
anything in which you perform, you can't have that. You have to
Hmm.
focus here where the performance is happening and what is crucial for you to bring into that.
Hmm. Got it. I think that is a crucial distinction. And I want to finish off with a couple of questions that I hear coaches ask themselves a lot. And I think that is something that I have asked myself as well. And so it's a question that is very relatable for me. And I want you to answer it as somebody who is also been on the journey of being an ICF coach, and somebody who's also been on the journey of being an NLP trainer, and might have experienced this question for
Yeah,
yourself as well. Okay.
yeah.
And these questions really are that as a coach, I used to ask myself, and I probably think others do as well, that did I really create enough value in this session?
Yeah.
And, would a better coach have gotten the client further?
Okay.
So I want to explore how these inner narratives can shape
Hmm.
up how we show up,
Hmm.
in our next session or the next session and the next session.
Right.
And in your experience as an NLP coach, NLP trainer,
Yeah.
what can a coach do to address such doubts?
I think as you're elaborating, it was, I can say this and I can say that. So different kinds of threads were coming in. I think one thread that came up for me is that what is value?
Hmm.
That's a very healthy question to ask.
Hmm.
And this question can get asked, if I link it back to the earlier question you asked about the performance chatter, the
Hmm.
question can be asked during the conversation, and the question can certainly be asked after the conversation is over. Like you said, did I add value? Could there have been a better coach for this person? It's
Hmm.
a question that can even be asked at the beginning. But
Hmm.
that's the reason why I say it's a healthy question to ask, because uh, like I like to use these two words, that if you're simultaneously nervous and excited about something, you must really care for it to go well.
Hmm.
That's why you're nervous and excited, right?
Hmm.
And so when I say what is value, it's kind of making me ready for that conversation, that hey, there's an expectation, there's a professional standard. At the same time, there is a reasonable sort of again, expectation that the client is bringing in, thinking about this coach has been referred to me by someone else, so I'm hoping it's that kind of an
Hmm.
expertise. And to think about what's the value that I'm going to bring into this conversation is a good question to just center and ground yourself into that, embodying the coaching mindset.
Hmm.
Because then you're paying attention to the client and what's the perceived value they are looking for. They might articulate it through the contracting that happens or clarifying the outcome. And you're then listening to them from, is this conversation going to help them get to that outcome?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
if that's happening at the beginning, it helps me stay focused
Hmm.
during the conversation, that is this adding value? And I can ask that, hey, we've
Hmm.
been through 20 minutes of this conversation so far. Are you okay with the direction in which it is going? And they'll clarify that.
Hmm.
And still asking that question afterwards is also useful, because doesn't it happen, if you're involved in a sport, if you've just given a presentation, you always feel like going and asking to somebody who's a well-wisher, hey, you were there in the room, according to you, tell me, did I do well or
Hmm.
not?
Hmm.
So if you look at it from that aspect, that it's not a bad question to ask, am I adding value?
Hmm.
Could somebody else have done this better than me?
Hmm.
If you look at it from a point of your own continuous development, And if you think of it from a point of view of how else can I add, that's why we ask during the conversation also, is there anything else that we might have missed that you'd like to bring in? We're checking, right? Is there more value that I can create?
Yeah.
So I think rather than thinking of it as landing the conversation, if we care enough about creating value in the conversation, well, afterwards, that landing the conversation is an outcome which is going to happen, right? So that's where we sometimes sense this, right? Where clients will say, I don't know what you did, but whatever you did, it was amazing. Now that's a good, instead of again, so there's another presupposition in NLP called failure is only feedback. Right? There is no failure, there's only feedback. I like to add on to it saying that, there is no success also, even success is feedback. So we can't be upset that, according to me, the conversation didn't land well. And we can't be excited and joyful that, hey, this conversation really landed well, I have arrived as a coach. I think if you are going to be a coach, you're not saying that that's it, till the end of 2026 I'm a coach, after that I'll just not do anything else, I want to end on a high. I think most likely you're going to continue being a coach. Same thing applies for people that are trainers in the field of NLP. It's a lifelong pursuit. So if it's a lifelong pursuit, take failure as well as success as a feedback and use it as a way of expanding your idea of how you can add more value in the conversation, right? So, and rather than taking the pressure, ask. Like in NLP courses, I'll often ask at the end of one session, and when we get into the next session after the break, I'll just check with people, hey, how is it going so far? And they'll give that feedback. Somebody will say it is becoming too heavy, and that's a feedback that, okay, let's make it simpler for people. In the coaching conversation also, client is going to give you that feedback that, yeah, I think what is going on right now, I'm comfortable with it, or I'm still not clear about something. Okay, then there's still room to ask something else and create some more value. So if you're able to be a good mirror, that means the client can reflect on us and check for themselves what they're saying, what they're thinking about it, in a way that it kind of resonates with them and their sensibility. Then I think we are delivering value as a coach.
It's almost like a relief to hear that sort of a reframe, almost like, when you frame it like that coaching or training is a lifelong pursuit.
Yeah.
It's a journey that you're on. And as much as the client is on a journey for themselves, you as a coach are on a journey too. Yes. And to be treating each incident almost as, as feedback and not really labeling it as failure or success.
Yeah.
That reframe, I think, is pretty useful because that's a very intentional narrative that you build rather than assuming that you've got to be perfect as a coach to be able to add value to somebody else's world.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I think it's about knowing not only theirs but also our outcome, if we were to frame it like this. Yes. And watching our own signals and trusting, like you said, correct, that if we hold the right kind of space, the client will do their own work in their world, and that is adding value.
That's adding value because the value is available from the moment the conversation starts. The value is available from the moment somebody reaches out to you and says, hey, somebody has recommended me. There's some things that I'm dealing with. Would you be my coach?
Yeah.
You started creating value from there.
Yeah.
That somebody thought that it's worthwhile to go and get myself a coach, and then they came to you as a coach, is the beginning of creation of value.
Yeah.
Then you got inserted into the process and had a conversation and continued to provide value.
Yeah.
And value in their own way. They're free to articulate what value means. There are times where somebody has said, yeah, I think my confusion is cleared.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, but you didn't get any answer. But no, for them, maybe it was just enough that the confusion got cleared.
Yeah.
Now I'll think through what options are there.
Yeah.
So I think that kind of a thing is important, and it's just another step. Because if we think of it like, like trekking or hiking, you can't say, it's slippery over there, so that's not good. Well, it's just information for you that be careful and go this way, and eventually if you keep walking, you'll reach where you want to reach.
Yeah. And my coach, where I trained from for ICF, being an ICF coach, he used to always say that a good coach makes themselves dispensable,
Dispensable, yes.
right? And now that we are talking, I'm actually remembering the certain times where just getting the client to know their outcome
Yes,
was adding value to them, because a lot of
yes,
times some people don't even know what they're looking for,
yes,
and
yes,
just to get them to, okay, what is it that I'm really looking to explore, is adding value to them, you know
indeed, indeed.
and that, I think, is all about reframing that narrative, like I said earlier, and that's pretty useful. So this conversation has opened up, so many ways that this can be explored as well.
And I mean, I remember, when we say that, success and failure is feedback, this word feedback is also very interesting, because it doesn't
Hmm.
mean that uh, somebody is going to give you feedback,
Hmm.
but it could mean that feedback is available if you're looking for it.
Yeah.
And it might be something in the way the conversation happened, didn't happen. Maybe afterwards you had a second thought that if only I had asked that kind of a question. Now that's
Yeah.
feedback to yourself. And
Correct.
in a way, then that is continuous improvement, right? In a way,
Yeah.
then that aligns with how NLP is shaped to help you create excellence. So if you're looking at excellence, you'll always have feedback. You'll never, reach a stage where you're God status coach and nobody can now give you feedback. I hope that doesn't happen for anyone. I hope that people keep getting feedback and they keep evolving and, growing as a coach or growing as
Mm.
somebody who's NLP trained.
Mm. Beautiful. I think it's a good time for us to now break from this topic and let all of these thoughts, go inside and get assimilated, really. So,
Yes.
thank you so much for this session, Nikhil.
Thanks,
And
thanks, thanks. I think this is, again, I think we looked at it as just something that came up at the end of the last episode, and there's an episode full of conversation that has happened on it now. So it's amazing what's
absolutely,
happening here. Yeah.
absolutely. So, if you're a coach listening in and you recognize some of these questions coming up for you as well, and the urge to shake the table, or the pressure to have every session land, or the doubt whether, if you're like me, the doubt whether you've added enough value, well, our hope is that this episode has given you some more structure, some more kinder way, a kinder frame to work with your own state and to look at what you are bringing to the table. And I would again like to thank you, Nikhil, for bringing the NLP lens to this very human side of coaching, almost.
Yeah, I think in the training, we kind of get so focused on, I must get everything right. And, we have to sort of grant ourselves that leeway that there are things that will go wrong, there are things that will fall through the cracks. And along the way, then we sort of, develop ourselves as a coach in whatever way we want to be a good coach, reliable coach, etc., etc.
Yeah, yeah. So thank you again, and thank you all of you for joining us on the Iridium Conversation. If you would like to explore how NLP can help you manage your state and deepen your presence as a coach, you can write to us or reach out to Nikhil or me, whatever works for you. Until we meet next time, thank you and take care.
Take care. Thanks for tuning into today's episode. We hope you enjoyed the conversation and are taking away a few insights that you can put to practice and start playing with immediately.
And also, we would urge you to spread the word and follow us on LinkedIn to know when the next episode's out. See you next time in the next episode as we continue the quest for coaching excellence. Thank you.